Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe. We are here this morning for the paper talk. We're going to be looking at Corentin Tolisso being linked to Manchester United by Tier 1 source MUFC. We're also going to be looking at Fosu-Mensah's potential contract update, upgrade, agreement, all that sort of thing. We're going to be looking at everything to do with that. First of all, how are you doing at home? Well, I haven't said ever. It's Thursday the 11th of June, in case you're wondering. Just 8 days until Manchester United are back. And actually, what is it? Only 6 days till the Premier League's back. You get to watch Arsenal get battered by City. You get to watch Sheffield United hopefully drop some points so we don't have to look over our shoulder for the last 9 games. There's plenty to look forward to. How are you all doing at home this morning? Morning, Joe. Morning, everyone. Like I said, we're going to be looking at Corentin Tolisso and his reliable link to Manchester United. It's a name that we've not heard linked with United, certainly not since his time at Lyon, and now he's been linked with Man United once again by... Let's get this up. Let's get into it. Let's just get straight into it. Let's get straight into it. This is by Mohamed Bouhafsi, who is, of course, a Tier 1 source over at RMC Sport, and on Reddit is where the tier system takes place. Tier 1 source. So this is, you believe this. There's no doubt in my mind about this. He says that Manchester United and Inter Milan are interested in Tolisso. Man United have even started discussions with those around the midfielder. Bayern won, and get this, 35 million euros. It cost that to park in Manchester. 35 million euros. Very cheap. We're going to be looking at the stats. We're going to be looking at if he's the right man for United. We're going to be looking at his injury record, which is something that is very much a concern with Tolisso. Probably the biggest concern with someone who is undoubtedly an excellent player, but someone who's been marred by injuries, particularly in the last 18 months. People saying he's a number 8. He can play as a number 6. He can play as a number 8. He's a little bit more defensive compared to the likes of Grealish and Van der Beek and Havertz that we've been linked with recently. He's a sort of, they're all sort of number 10s that can play at number 8. He's a number 8 that can play at number 6. It's like just one notch down the pitch, further toward the defence. Morning, Joe Smith of Stretford Paddock. Morning, Joel Page. Honestly forgot Tolisso existed. How dare you? That's very rude. He's going to be Manchester United's best player next season, and you're saying they don't even exist. Again, for those of you who don't know who Corentin Tolisso is, he's a French international. He played alongside Pogba in the World Cup, which is one of the reasons you think this story could have some legs. You wonder if Pogba has been sort of spoken to by Solskjaer, by the management at Old Trafford. What's this guy like? You've played with him, you've won a World Cup with him. Is he the right fit for Manchester United? He obviously is at Bayern Munich at the moment, went there from Lyon a couple of seasons ago. And basically, since he joined there, he's had a lot of injury problems. He had a knee injury that basically ruled him out for almost all of the 18-19 season. I think he only played about 6 games that year. Let me just check the stats there. He played 4 games in the 18-19 season, ruled out almost entirely with a knee injury. And then last season, he did play 24 games. This season so far, he's played 24 games. And he's currently undertaking some ankle surgery. So he's one of those players where you think, what are we getting in for here? What exactly are we looking at here as a physical specimen? He's an excellent player. He's a very high-energy player, great in the tackle, gets forward, gets goals and assists as well. Sort of, not quite. I know everyone gets compared to Ander Herrera because if you're not a number 10 and you're not a number 6, then you must be a dogged number 8 like Herrera is. But think sort of along those lines somewhat. Quite well-rounded. He's got a good pass on him, but he can also stick a crunching tackle in. Great energy, great engine. He's just a sort of an all-action, I hate that term, all-action central midfielder. Could work alongside a 3, could work as part of a sort of, a double pivot that United like to use. Get him alongside McTominay, get him alongside Fred, put him in behind Bruno and Pogba, who, let's face it, are both very, physically talented players. Both Fernandes and Pogba like to put a tackle in. People act as though they just stand up front and never do anything, never turn around, never look what's behind them. The positioning may not be perfect defensively, but both Pogba and Bruno are very capable of putting tackles in, very capable of tracking back and doing their defensive duties. So is it necessary that we, absolutely certainly need a number 6, a Matic type player, or maybe someone who's just very high energy, very good in the tackle, but can also expand well and make good passes, create goals like like Corentin Tolisso can do, maybe someone like that would be more suited to play alongside those two players. We don't know. We haven't seen them in training together. We don't quite have the luxury that the training staff have had. Why is he so cheap? Great question. I think the reason he's so cheap is because he's been injured for the last 2 seasons. He's damaged goods in the eyes of the transfer market, I believe. He only went to them, I think he went to Bayern for around 40 million euros in the first place. And like I said, he's been injured for his first season. He played 40 games, relatively full season. And his second season, he's only played 4 games. And then this season again, he's played 24 games, but he's currently out with undergoing ankle surgery, just any angle, and they just have to operate on it. Would be a decent coup if Sal doesn't come. Joe is making videos about New Zealand now. No, I'm not. Bayern need the cash to buy Sané. We buy Tolisso and fund City getting weakened. Sound. That's a good point. There seems to be a sticking point over the price of Leroy Sané going from Man City to Bayern Munich. City holding out for more sort of in the kind of 80, 90 million range, and Bayern want to pay more kind of 60, 70 kind of million. Corentin, that's what I've been saying. Corentin. Bayern, yeah, exactly. So there may well be an imperative for Bayern to get some money in the summer, and they're looking at, who can we let go? Well, this guy's not really played for us in 18 months. He's still only 25, let's not forget. So, it's not like he's injured all the time and he's 31, but we might get a few million for him. They're probably looking at him as someone who, we've played without you for 2 years, we don't necessarily need you in the squad, you're only 25, so we'll still get a decent amount for you, even though you are injury prone, or you have been injury prone over the last couple of seasons. Maybe they see him as one of the more expendable parts of their squad. His stats suggest his concentration is very poor and his tackling is weak. Well, I'm not saying he's the most robust, the best defensive midfielder. I'm saying that he's someone who gets into tackles and isn't, he's not shying away from them. This isn't a number 10, a sort of a luxury forward-minded midfielder. He's someone who's a bit more combative. He will sit a bit deeper, and I think he can play alongside the likes of Pogba and the likes of Bruno. Sounds like another player on United's list of potential Pogba replacements. Maybe, yeah, he's not necessarily number 1 on this list, is he? Tolisso here may well be number 6, number 7, or number 3, number 4 on this list. Obviously, we're linked with Van der Beek. This contact been made there. We're obviously linked with Tolisso, according to Mohamed Bouhafsi. Again, Tier 1 reliable journalist saying that contact has been made there. It's obviously a position that United are looking to strengthen. It's obviously something that at the end of this transfer window, they want to look back and say, look, we tried everything we could here. We're really covering our bases here, aren't we? It's clear that Solskjaer wants a midfielder. It's clear, and I think even if Pogba stays, one of these players will be coming to United. I think it's obvious, like I said, that this is something that United want, that we keep going after despite everyone at home saying, well, he's not number 6, is he? Don't we need a number 6? Don't we need a number 6? And I'm in that camp as well. There's part of me that thinks, is this the right kind of player we're looking for here? Don't we need someone who can sit behind them? Why we've only got Matic who can play in a number 6 role by himself. Don't we need a more defensive midfielder? And yet, time and time again, every single link to every new player that United are linked with, it's not Wilfred Ndidi, it's not, Idrissa Gueye, it's Tolisso, it's Van der Beek, it's Grealish, it's Havertz. So there's obviously something going on there. Whether that is Paul Pogba leaving and we aren't aware of it, because the most recent talk, the most recent rumours have been that Paul Pogba is going to be staying. So exactly what is going on is something that remains to be seen, and I'm sure we'll find out. At the start of next season, we'll know a bit more where the chips lie. But at the moment, it does seem to be a confusing set of transfer targets, doesn't it? Obviously, Sancho makes complete sense. We don't have any right wingers at the club, literally 0 right wingers. That makes complete sense. Ighalo made sense because we had one striker who had ever played in the Premier League before, and we've got Mason Greenwood, who's an incredibly talented youngster, but he was 17 when the season started. So give him a couple of years to sort of, bed in, and if Martial gets injured, it's not really fair to him to have to play 2 games a week, for Manchester United when the scrutiny is going to be so high, when we've got such pressure on him. Get someone else in. Odion Ighalo makes complete sense. But then, who's Van der Beek? Where is Van der Beek playing? Where is Jack Grealish playing? Where is Havertz playing? And obviously, we're not going to get all of these players, but I think certainly with Van der Beek, Grealish, and now Tolisso, I would say I'm pretty certain that contact has been made with all three of those players. I believe the sources that we are hearing from in regards to these transfers. So I think contact has been made for all three of these players, and potentially Havertz as well. So how does this all fit? It doesn't really make sense. And again, this is a very much a sort of someone whose tactics come from Football Manager and FIFA. We think, well, we need more of a balance to the midfield. Everyone's talking about balance in the midfield. And yet we keep going after sort of attacking number 8s. So it's going to be interesting to me. I'm not exactly sure. 35 million or 40 million after Woodward negotiates? Yeah, probably. Just put another 5 on. 35 million is a no-brainer. If Bayern are getting rid, then there is a reason why. Freddie McSauce can easily do the job with Matic also. That's one thing with Fred. I don't think he's had an injury since he joined United, has he? And if he has, it's been a very minor one. He's been available almost every game this season. McTominay, of course, got that... was it an ankle injury that he was out with for a couple of months? I can't remember. I think it was an ankle injury. But generally speaking, McTominay is a very sort of fit and healthy specimen as well. Doesn't seem to get injured too much. We've had a long history of having players that are injury prone. We've had a lot of centre-backs that are injury prone. Paul Pogba, I wouldn't necessarily call him injury prone just yet because he's only really had one season of being injured. But you've got to look at, how is he going to respond to being out for essentially 9 months? Do we need another piece of the jigsaw in that midfield to be one with a pretty severe injury record? I don't know. I've been generally satisfied by the way United are developing. Now I'm getting twitchy over the progress Chelsea are making. Are we in danger of being overtaken / left behind by the Blues? Well, here's the thing. If you thought that United were going to get Sancho and United were going to get Havertz or Grealish or whoever, and then we'd get Bellingham and then we might go after Koulibaly if we fancy it, and everyone else was going to sit around going, fucking hell, United are buying loads of players, we should have thought of that. The reason we have to buy is because everyone's buying. So I'm not surprised that Chelsea are going big. They are one of the most, one of the biggest spenders in the Premier League over the last 15 years. And they've just had a year where they couldn't buy anyone. So it's no wonder they're going big. They're making up for lost time. They've got money to spend because of the way that financial fair play works. They've not spent much money in the last 2 years. So they've got a lot of money to spend. And they're going out and they're reinforcing. Tammy Abraham's a decent striker, but he's never going to be, or I wouldn't see him as being one of the top strikers in Europe, whereas Timo Werner does have that potential. They've got, Williams getting on a bit now. He's been a great servant for them, but now they need Hakim Ziyech. And then, Mason Mount's all right, but, we could really do with Kai Havertz, so they're going after him. And obviously that one isn't certain the way the other two are, but it's no surprise that the teams around United are buying players in, bringing players in. And also something else you need to remember, or something that I like to remember as a little bit of solace for the fact that United aren't being left behind, is teams don't just get better every single year when you buy more players. Teams get better, but the standard of football is roughly the same as it was 10 years ago, or roughly the same as it was 15 years ago. Like if you got Chelsea's side under Mourinho, that 2004 side, and you put it in this league now, it would still win the league, or it'd still, push Liverpool as far as you can. If you got Man United's 07, 08 side, and you put that in this season, it would still win the league, or it would push Liverpool again a lot further than anyone else has. So it's not like football is just getting better and better and better. Not all of these signings are guaranteed to be good. Not all of these signings are guaranteed to make Chelsea. It's not just like buy someone, you go like this. Buy anyone, you go like this. Buy anyone, you go like this. It all has to work together. So if they're just buying players willy-nilly, and I'm not saying that their transfer system is flawed, because obviously I don't know, but you're not just guaranteed by more success, as United have proven almost against that grain in the last 7 or 8 years. We've spent loads of money. Spending money isn't United's problem. It's making those transfers be the correct transfers and making them play in a way that wins us trophies. So yes, whilst I am concerned about the way Chelsea is spending, and it makes me think United need to spend money, just because they're spending money doesn't mean they will be any better than they were last season. So, there's always that. Right, let's move on to our second story. It's almost knocked my hair into my eyes. Second story then, we're going to be looking at Timothy Fosu-Mensah and how his potential contract is being discussed, being agreed, being talked about. Let's get that up. This is coming from The Telegraph. And this is saying that Manchester United are keen for Timothy Fosu-Mensah to sign a new deal before agreeing a loan. Again, coming from The Telegraph. This is one of those where Fosu-Mensah's contract runs out next summer, so it's June 2021. So obviously he's only got 1 year left. He's, again, had a lot of problems with injuries. It's something that we've seen from him in his career, which is upsetting and disappointing. But he's only 22. So it's not like, again, we thought that, Tolisso's young. Fosu-Mensah is 3 years younger than that. And he's, such a talented, such a physically gifted player. Someone who improved a lot, I think, at Crystal Palace. He looked good there. And he's one of those players that he's clearly got so much about him that he can make an impact, and that he's stuck around for as long as he has. And, no offence to him, but if he was a player with any less talent and his injury record, I don't think he'd be at Man United anymore. But it's just a testament to how talented he is that United are sticking with him. United are looking at bringing in another contract for him, when obviously he struggled to get any sort of first-team games for any club with his injury record. It does look as though he's fit again now. He played in the inter-squad friendlies the other day. Do you think it's a good idea to be giving Fosu-Mensah another contract and then potentially putting him out on loan? What do we think to that? Do we think that it's one of those where it's not going to cost us too much money, and it's a real potential to sort of kick yourself when he's, one of the best players at Tottenham, or one of the best players at Sheffield United or Chelsea, or one of the teams in and around United's position? Because he obviously does have that potential. We've seen that with him through the youth age groups. He was always one of the most sort of highly rated players in those age groups. He stood out a mile. He was sort of very physically mature for his age, so quick off the line, very strong, very fast, and improving all the time technically as well. And he's one of those players that can play in a multitude of positions. He can play in defensive mid, he can play at right back. We saw he played right back a lot for Crystal Palace until, funnily enough, Aaron Wan-Bissaka came through. How often do top-class youth players bounce back from injury? That is a stat I don't have in front of me, Mark, but I get your point. It's one of those, players who are injury-prone as youngsters, how often do they overcome that? It seems, just from sort of thinking, not very often, but I don't have, again, those stats in front of me. But yeah, again, it's almost a testament to his potential and to his quality that United are willing to sort of go through what has been such a sort of tumultuous and unenviable injury career for Fosu-Mensah, and we're willing to go through that to try to get the player that United know is in there, which is difficult. We gave injury-prone Jones a new contract. Yes, but Phil Jones is 28 or 29, isn't he? It's not the same as giving a 22-year-old a new contract, when he'll be on a lot less money than Phil Jones as well. Recap, please. United are after Corentin Tolisso, and it's potentially going to sign him for 35 million, but the injury record is something that we're worried about. If you want to recap, wait till the video's finished, start it again. Is he to get Van der Beek at a cheaper price? Because the Dutch league is not as rich as other leagues. I don't know if you mean United are going after Tolisso to get Van der Beek at a smaller price. If that's what you're suggesting, then potentially. There's always going to be negotiations and sort of money tactics going on in the background. Keep Timber, once he gets over these injuries, he can be a great squad player for us, and maybe even more. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? We've all seen it with him. We've all seen him the game against Spurs, where he was one of our best players and we went off and we ended up, I think conceded 2 or 3 goals in that game. He's looked good for, like I said, for Palace. He stood out and shone there. You heard so many great reports about how he was playing there a couple of seasons ago when he was at Crystal Palace. He's one of those players that, like I said, is so talented that it would be a shame to see his career kind of, fall by the wayside. But it doesn't look like that's happening. Like I said, his contract runs out in June of 2021, and United are looking to extend that deal and then put him out on loan. Again, the loan thing is one of those where you think, well, at some point he should be playing for United. He's 22 years old, but like I said, he's almost had 2 or 3 years of his career taken away from him. He's got the experience of a 19-year-old. Obviously, physically, it's not the same, but he's got the sort of career experience of a 19-year-old. He's only ever played 1 or 2 sort of seasons at top-flight football, so it might just take him a little bit longer to develop. And it wasn't for the same reasons, but look at Jesse Lingard. He didn't break into the first team till he was 24 or 23. And that sometimes happens with players. People develop at different ages. And maybe another loan, because he's not going to play over Wan-Bissaka. And, even Ethan Laird, who is someone that's come through and he's played well in the European games that he's played. There are players in front of him, and of course, Diogo Dalot as well. So I think a loan is the best option for him at the moment. but we'll have to see exactly what happens with that one. Who would you take, Tolisso or Van der Beek? Personally, Van der Beek, just because he's injured less. I would prefer Donny Van der Beek. But I don't think Van der Beek would start for United. Or maybe he would. It depends what he offers. He's one of those, I've seen half a dozen games of him. But I just think from his characteristics and his style of play, I don't think he's going to get in over Pogba or Bruno. But obviously I would love to have him at the club. It's another, bringing the standard up, bringing the bottom up. I don't think we're in for Van der Beek. It's a Neil Ashton PR spin to turn a positive from a negative because we didn't sign Werner. Well, maybe, but it's a strange person to choose, isn't it? Van der Beek is an odd choice of let's use him as a person that United are pretending to be after. Why not push the Sancho story a bit harder, or why not bring Grealish back up, or I'm not quite sure why Van der Beek would be chosen for that role. But of course, I don't know the ins and outs of these things. What about the Brandon Williams contract situation? We discussed that the other day. He seems to be in negotiations with Manchester United for a new contract that could, I would say, expect that to be signed at any time, personally. I think he's due for a new contract just in terms of his money, the way that he's played so many games since his last contract. And, the thing with youth players is they'll sign their first professional contract, then they get in the first team, they sign a new contract to reflect that, then they play a season with the first team, and then they sign a new contract. So this will be his last contract probably for a few years, despite having signed, I think, 3 in the last 2 years. But that's just how it works because so many players get to the stage that Brandon was at a year ago and never play for the first team. And then they get to the stage that he was at in October where he signed his last contract, and then you play 3 or 4 games and you never come back. Whereas, he's played 26 times this season for Man United. So he deserves a contract that reflects the fact that he is a first-team member, and firmly a first-team member as well. We should just sell Fosu-Mensah. We're way too sentimental about the academy players. Sometimes we just have to cut them. That is from Nullen. And a bit more of a controversial, hard-line opinion there, but you can sort of see where he's coming from with his injury record. But again, it does seem to be one of those where United are willing to give Fosu-Mensah another chance and willing to sort of, be the team that sort of helps him through this injury problems that he's been having, and hopefully he can come out the other side of that. Right, that's going to be all from me this morning. We'll be back this afternoon for a podcast with Stephen Howson, so make sure you check that out at 4 p.m. British Standard Time. Is that what BST stands for? British Standard Time. Greenwich Mean Time. I've always been a fan of GMT. So yeah, 4 o'clock. Make sure you check that one out. If you want to follow me on Twitter, look at that, look. Follow me on Twitter at JoeSmith93. Thank you, Callum, for making that lovely little graphic, and we'll see you at 4 o'clock. See you in a bit.